Welcome back to True Crime No Noise, the no BS home for courtroom chaos, independent journalism, and calling out the system when it tries to silence voices that matter.
In a world full of noise, we follow the facts. This is true crime, no noise. In a world full of noise.
I'm your host, Karen, and oh my God, if you tuned into yesterday's South Boston District Court livestream, then you already know that we witnessed one of the wildest 209A hearings in Massachusetts history. Aidan Kearney, also known as Turtleboy, and his ex-girlfriend, Meredith O'Neil, went head-to-head in dueling restraining order requests. What unfolded wasn't just a breakup spat. It was hours of raw, unfiltered testimony featuring cocaine admissions, reverse cowgirl sex details, read aloud in open court, nudes distributed to many, many, many other people, illegal wiretapping confessions, and a judge whose face went from confused to straight up horrified. We are going deep with direct quotes from the stand, the judge's priceless reactions, and why this hearing was a win for independent media. Meredith's own words under oath painted her in a different kind of light. This wasn't about safety for her, it seemed. It was more about getting Aidan to stop talking about her. Let's break this down moment by chaotic moment. So, the backstory here is basically after a passionate relationship that began with jailhouse messages during Aidan's pretrial detention, things kind of exploded or imploded in July of 25. Public feuds, leaked messages, and accusations flew all over the internet. Meredith got a temporary ex parte 209A in March, and then Aidan filed his own, citing threats, self-harm stunts, erratic driving, and leaked privileged documents. Yesterday's hearing before Judge Paul Treseler was supposed to sort it out, but instead it became absolute courtroom reality TV. The courtroom was small, but packed, with many of Aidan's most prominent supporters, Jessica Machado, Auntie Deb, known as Jimmy, or Jimmy, known as Auntie Deb, and we heard names like Purple Kool-Aid Head and Turtle Head and Ray from Dallas. On the other side was Jason Broyles, also known as not Haley Walbreck, I think it is. So Meredith goes first, and her attorney, Thomas Doherty, plays explicit clips and steered straight into the bedroom. Then Aidan's on the stand. The real bombshells really were from Meredith's own mouth under oath. So this is where it got unhinged. Let's run through the direct quotes that had live stream chats absolutely exploding and the judge looking as though he may need a bottle of Excedrin and a drink. I feel like we all went on a wild ride. I described it as a fever dream. First, illegal wiretapping. Meredith flat out admitted that she recorded Aidan without his consent on the stand. I quote, "I did it," as in recorded, "because I needed it for my protection. He called me threatening things, so I wanted this, and he was also trying to frame me for recording Karen Reed, so I wanted evidence that he was the one who recorded her." Aidan's attorney highlighted it, admitted it that she illegally wiretapped my client without his consent, and the judge even pointed it out on the record. Your client just took the stand and admitted to one-way recording. Guys, that's a felony in Massachusetts, and now it's on public record. Next, we had cocaine use. Meredith admitted to doing lines in her own apartment with her daughter home. Quote, "I did a tiny line and was like, this is so gross. I don't know how I used to do it." She also claimed that it was brought over by Aidan's friend and Aidan was there. Does this devastate her credibility? I mean, they even threw a friend under the bus. So then she admitted that she would lie under oath for Aidan. The direct quote was, "I said I would lie for him and say I was part of his legal team if I was ever asked. If you were to get in trouble for fair and grand jury testimony, I would have lied for him." Later, she kind of walked it back, saying, "Things have changed and I'm not going to lie for him and get in trouble myself now." But the cat is out of the bag. The cat is gone. She confessed that she's willing to commit perjury. Then we had distributing nudes. Aidan testifies, and it went unchallenged on cross, that Meredith went through his phone extraction, found intimate photos, and distributed them. She found pictures of breasts and took a picture of that woman's breasts and distributed them not only to, or basically to many, many other people. They're all over the internet now. So she admitted to sharing sexual messages and videos. The attorney played clips including messages like, quote, "I miss your huge dick inside of me." And then reverse cowgirl enters the chat. I would call this the moment that broke the internet. Aidan described their sex life on the stand. Her and I, had never had sex with reverse cowgirl until that night when she wanted to film it for the first time, and she wanted to do a reverse cowgirl because she had seen that daddy likes that. Let's go.
Was going into freshman year at Milton High School. Her and I had never had sex with reverse cowgirl until that night when she wanted to film for the first time, and she wanted to do it reverse cowgirl because she had seen Daddy Likes That.
Messages and fantasies, including threesomes, were read out loud. Judge Treseler kind of shuts it down.
Okay, I've heard enough of this. I get the gist.
I want you to know that.
I get the gist. Introduce it as an exhibit. I'll listen to it in chambers.
And says, "I've heard enough of this. I get the gist. Introduce it as an exhibit, and I will listen to it in chambers." And his face, guys, it went from shock to increasingly more horrified. And at one point, he had his hand on his face, and I think he kind of threw his pen across the bench in frustration, and he called a recess. He later sighed, "I really don't need to know everybody's ins and outs over the last 3 years. What I need to know is, are you going to meet the elements?" So there was kind of a bigger picture. Judge Treseler seemed to genuinely be baffled by how independent media works in 2026. He said things like, "From the court's perspective, I assume it's over some podcast where people have people who watch them for whatever reason. I don't know." He questions why audience size matters and treated YouTube live streaming and fundraising as like a weird hobby instead of actual frontline journalism that exposed things like the Karen Reed trial and Sandra Birchmore and really covered the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial, along with many other national stories and trials. Come on, guys, this is the new horizon, okay? Hundreds of thousands tune in because legacy media doesn't touch certain stories, and they certainly don't dive into them the way that you can this way. Come on, this is the new horizon here. Hundreds of thousands of people tune in because legacy media doesn't touch these kind of stories, and they certainly don't tell the stories in the same open way that you can on platforms like this. So it kind of felt like dismissing these kind of platforms as like posting craziness. And Meredith's side kind of weaponized it as harassment, which we can dive into later. What's harassment and what is free speech? This kind of showed how badly the courts really need to catch up, because what's protected speech? The judge's frustration felt less like protecting victims and more like, "This internet thing confuses me." The judge was the greatest judge.
Those things, you're going to zing Mr. Kearney, right? You don't care, right?
That's not what I said.
Isn't that a fair characterization of what you said?
Your Honor, I want to hear objection before I hear a word out of your mouth. Objection. Overruled. Sit down. Oh, I said overruled. Sit down.
No, because I was with him for 2 years. I saw how he controlled what the others did. They did exactly what he wanted, or they stopped doing what he wanted. So I knew when things were coming out, especially when they were texts that only came from him, it was him directing it, so he could play the victim.
Didn't you just say 2 minutes ago that he doesn't control the content creators?
I was being sarcastic because
His faces, comments, and more will live on forever. So Meredith's attorney, Doherty, He was kind of aggressive and kind of loud. He didn't just like cross-examine people either. He turned the stand into kind of like a sleazy tabloid segment. He yelled at his own client, played graphic sexual audio, mocked Aidan's PTSD, panic attacks, which Meredith had called a toddler tantrum on the stand, and it was straight up sex shaming. The strategy was Meredith's admissions of crimes and willingness to lie made her look less credible. Meanwhile, Aidan was focused on fear, erratic behavior. Aidan talked about bloody self-harm, 100 miles per hour tailgating, threats to continue leaking stuff, and posting panic attack videos for millions to see. Both sides absolutely had dirt, and nobody's denying that the relationship was toxic. If you listen to this at all, it absolutely showed two people that should never be together. Meredith's sworn admissions to wiretapping cocaine, willing to be lying under oath, if not now, distributing nudes, destroyed kind of the fear narrative. Aidan's platform didn't just harass her.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you just answer a lot of questions?
I need an aspirin. Can you just ask one question and let him answer it, and then you try another question?
He said, this is journalism, and she dated him. She sought him out in jail, knowing exactly who he was. He's been doing this for more than a decade. The judge took everything under advisement, and he extended the temporary orders until Friday. He demanded written closings. He was done. He was done. He called it, this fire needs to go out. It needs to stop. So we're going to find out what the ruling is soon. I've seen many people say they think that he will just blanket rule that both sides will get issued a restraining order, like, get out of here, let's be done. I don't know. The hearing proved why independent media matters, because courts can't pretend that the internet doesn't exist, and this is like a whole new horizon. What should be allowed as free speech, and what is harassment? Quotes like, Meredith accidentally confessed to crimes on the stand, reverse cowgirl has entered the chat, the judge threw his pen, and video of absolute killer quotes from the judge. The next step here is going to be the judge's written decision. Possible criminal fallout for the wiretapping admission? I don't know. They have a case coming up behind closed doors pretty soon. This was a total circus. It showed the system at the most ridiculous. I'm curious what everybody's comments on this are.
The order itself.
Yeah. Why, is that because you're striking out in holding?
No, it's because it would be easier to hear this all in front of the same judge than go into two different courthouses. Thank you for asking.
He said, thank you for asking.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm not.
Thank you.
So you were using Mr. Royals as a mediator?
That's right.
Whose idea was that, yours?
I don't remember, probably his.
Well, you were friends with this.
I don't know what it's
Was
called.
he on your show in the past?
It doesn't make someone a friend.
Oh, on his show.
Very awkward.
And in fact, you kind of had a lot of social intercourse, if you will, with him, right?
Intercourse?
Well, that's another way of saying communicating online.
Yeah, we communicated online.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you spoke with him about, with Mr. Royals about, threatening to get her fired, right? You threw Mr. Royals the mediator, you threatened to get her fired.
No, I said if she keeps this up, she's going to get herself fired.
Right, and you went online on your show, and you said, hey, everybody, and you gave her place of work,
Nope,
right?
nope.
You told everyone State Street Mayor, right? That's it.
State Street
She
Mayor?
works at State Street, right?
It was the
This guy Purplehead.
He's trying to answer the question. He just keeps.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you just
Still a
answer
lot
the
of questions.
question? And then-
I need an aspirin. Can you just ask one question and let him answer it, and then you try another question?
So you